Welcome in, everybody, to the weekly banner show. It's official. Nothing's official until Jeff Siegel says so. I'm Jeremy Plonk. He's Jeff Siegel, representing First Bet and Express Bet. Jeff, we've got 5 topics this week, and we're going to get a little international. We'll get a little sassy. Things just didn't go really well for us in jolly old last week.
Yeah, that's for sure. And before we get started, though, I do want to officially declare it first day of summer, 21st of June. It is the longest day of the year. So we're going to get a lot done today. Got a long day to get it all done. And we've got lots to talk about. I tell you what, though, I'm sure happy in my way that the 6-month season of Santa Anita is finished. I enjoyed it. It was a great meeting, but I could use a little bit of a breather. And we're going to take the next couple of weeks off to prepare for Saratoga and Del Mar, do some research for that and then get geared up for that. So in the meantime, we have a little bit of a break, but always fun to look back at what happened last week. And plenty happened last week for sure.
I don't think people believe that you ever take breaks. I don't think they're going to buy that, Jeff. What is a break for you? 12 hours, like half day, then you're back at it?
I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll take a picture of my house pre-cleaning and then post-cleaning today, and they'll see the difference in what has built up in the last 6 months. So I'll get that done. And that's my break, is to clean house and get all the things done that I have put off in the last several weeks as we try to concentrate on the closing weeks and closing weekend at Santa Anita. Of course, all the Triple Crown races as well. So a lot of work to be done in the interim, but looking forward again, not only to this weekend and the 4 weeks in between Del Mar and what we just had, but of course Saratoga coming up as well, and we'll be all geared up for that.
Let's get to the big board with our 5 topics for the week. First one up is Santa Anita, safe and sound. Jeff, it was an excellent meet for the 76 days in terms of the horse safety. Fatalities way down, just 3 for the entire meet, none on the main track. It has to be a feel good for the efforts that were put in by the management at Santa Anita. Look, the pre-race vet examinations, to me, that's a major factor that simply just doesn't happen in all jurisdictions around the country. They have to take a bit of a tip of the cap here, and kudos to the track crew and everybody involved there.
Yeah, I mean, for those of us who live out here in California and are subjected to all the negative publicity that we had the last few years for the fatalities on the racetrack and the picketing from PETA and the daily updates on the LA Times and whatever horse, when we ever had a fatality, whether or not it was a breakdown or even just a death in the backstretch due to colic or something, it made front page news, and it was very demoralizing. And while maybe some good came of it, because you can see the results of the labor that was put into trying to correct the situation. Right. And at the end of the 6-month meeting, 76 days, as you mentioned, 4,800 starters, just 3 fatalities. I do think there are a lot of reasons why this meeting has become so safe. Part of that, of course, is because of the diligence of the veterinary inspections. We don't allow horses with any kind of issue to run. Trainers are aware of this. They're not entering because they know the horses aren't going to pass the vet. Mm-hmm. Also, we've had a great uptick in grass racing, which I thoroughly believe in. I think grass racing is safer for a number of reasons, but mostly because horses don't run as hard or as fast. It's not as physically demanding when you run on grass. Mm-hmm. And again, with 50% of the races being carded for grass, and grass races do handle more money and they track better horses, and horses are able to come back quicker because it's not as difficult as physically taxing. I think everything that the racetrack has done, from the racing office to the vets to everything else, really has contributed to this, and it's a pleasure to be associated now with a racetrack that puts health and safety at the highest priority. It paid off this year.
You know, going back to journalism school, there's the old statement that you learned in Journalism 101 of man bites dog. Man bites dog is a story, right? It doesn't happen often. Dog bites man never makes it into the newspaper. And so dirty laundry, as Don Henley once famously sang, sells in the media, and it's unfortunate. And this isn't going to get the play in the mainstream media that it probably should because of the remarkable turnaround that they've had. But within the racing press, we can do what we can do to pass the word along, because there are even fans in horse racing who are skeptical of what happened at Santa Anita a few years ago, who need to come back to the product, right? And this is something that can welcome a horse racing fan back to the product at Santa Anita, knowing what they're doing there is working. We will never make inroads probably with the mainstream media because, again, dog bites man is not a story. Man bite dogs is. And so within the racing community, to get this story out, I think is important. Bettors to feel confident and want to get back to playing Santa Anita. I think that's a good thing. Jeff, let's talk about the meet itself at Santa Anita, which just wrapped up after 6 months. Tell us who you thought your top performance came from.
Well, it kind of set the stage, on opening day in the Malibu, when Flightline won his first start. And although he didn't run back at the meeting after that Malibu win on December 26th, that really wasn't the intention. He was going to run. He just came up with an issue that cost him the meeting. And then at the end of the meeting, John Sadler figured out maybe it'd be better off at the end of the meeting to go to the Met Mile. But he was supposed to run in March and then come back after that. So he had some issues, but it was good to see him run right off the bat and set the stage. The 3-year-old division was competitive. That was good. The grass racing was very, very competitive. And all in all, it was, I thought, an outstanding meeting. Yes, the field size wasn't quite what we were hoping it to be, but there are issues that are here in California that don't exist. We don't have any slot money. Purses are good, but they're not quite what they are, say, at Oakland or Keeneland or Churchill or even New York. So it's going to be difficult to match that, and that's the one barrier that we're going to have out in California. But all in all, competitive racing, good racing, a great race place, and I thought the management has a reason to be pleased with everything.
Let's go back and look at Flightline in the Malibu. It was the opening day of the meet, but boy, what a point he made.
Flightline sailing away, coming to the quarter pole, opening up a length and a half on Team Merchants. Baby Yoda trying to get off the rail. In behind them, Dr. Shovel. Triple Tap is last as Flightline turns it on at the top of the stretch, and he's in cruise control. Flightline, a superstar, is dominating the run-happy Malibu, and he's going to turn this into his easiest win yet. Flightline, jogging home under Flavien Prat, wins by a distance.
And Jeff, one of the other big stories of the meet was Juan Hernandez rising to the top of the jockey standings. We know Reese Bali left partway through the meet. We know Flavien Prat was here until about the beginning of April and before departing. But Juan Hernandez, veteran of Northern California, has made a home in SoCal, and he dominated. I mean, he won this by open lengths for the leading jockey.
Funny thing is about Juan is that if someone asks you what does he do best, I don't think he has a reputation of being great at anything, although he's good at everything. It's not like, for example, Flavien Prat came with the reputation of being a great grass rider, and and he doesn't, or a speed rider or a close. This jock does it all, and he came from Northern California. We've had some really good riders come down from Northern California in the last 10, 12 years, beginning with Joel Rosario back in 2008. Cedillo came down here and did well. Now Juan Hernandez. It's a good place to be because some of the big guys, like, for example, Pratt, they pick up and go, and Rosario, they go for what they consider to be greener pastures. But that allows really good riders to come down here and make a mark. And Juan has done that, just running away with a jockey race. He's a good guy. I mean, he's just a hard worker and a very skilled rider. And no matter what kind of horse you put him on, he's capable, whether it's a long-distance turf horse or a sprinter, a closer, a speed horse. He does it all, and he's a young guy, and he's going to make a lot of noise here in the next several years, as long as he decides to stay put. And I think he's one of these kind of guys. I think he will actually hunker down here and try to dominate this circuit rather than try to go off and do something extraordinary somewhere else.
Let's go into our second topic of 5 for the week. Royal Ascot. We talked about the pronunciation of Royal Ascot, Royal Ascot, and joked that it could be Royal Ascot. It's the way that it turned out last week, Jeff Siegel. Let's go to the results for the American horses last week at Royal Ascot. Look, there were 9 horses who ran representing the U.S. The top 5 on this list were Wesley Ward trainees. The next 2 were for Christophe Clement. Spenderella represented Graham Motion, and then Rusty Arnold sent out late September, early in the meet. You could see a lot of double-digit finishes, some in the 20s, 26 to 27, 17 of 17. This was not a positive performance by the Americans by any estimation. This
was ugly. Let's say it. Now, many of these entrants, or several of them, were in tough. Let's face it. I mean, it's not the. It's like playing a road game in Tuscaloosa. I think it's tough to go over there and try to win it in their own backyard. Horses that are trained for that type of racing. But we've had success. We, being the Americans, have had success in the past. And you look at the names here. Golden Pal was expected to win. He was 16th and last. I thought Spenderella would run well, but she was going to be tough. She actually probably ran as well as any of the Americans when she was second. And Campanella, I thought, ran really well when she was a dead heat for third of 24. Nothing wrong with that. Other than that, I mean, Love Rames didn't run badly. She was fourth of 22. I mean, that's okay. Not really not bad. But other than that, no wins and disappointing runs, and coming back with what is this saying, a tail between our legs. It's just not real positive, and it was a little disappointing. But on the other hand, it just reinforces what we know, Jeremy, is that when they're on their game, these Europeans, especially when they got the home court advantage, they are really tough. They're really tough when they come here to California for the Breeders' Cup or Kentucky, or wherever it's staged. They're tough all along. They've got some really good horses and great trainers, and they know how to get horses ready. So, disappointing for sure. But we'll see. Hopefully these horses will come back and regain their best form.
Maybe the tea leaves were already percolating at Keeneland this spring. Wesley Ward only won 3 of the 12 2-year-old races, I believe, or went 3 for 12. He's used to winning half, 2/3 of the races. He didn't have the 2-year-old core that we're used to seeing. And he's had success over at Royal Ascot with his 2-year-old. So the juveniles he took over this year all came away empty. The older horses came away empty. Wesley had very good turf sprinters at Keeneland. Don't get me wrong. He didn't get wiped out at the meet, but he didn't have the 2-year-old group this year that he's used to having. They didn't win a bunch of races at Belmont in June like we're used to seeing as well. So Wesley's just simply down with his 2-year-olds this year, and I think that's part of the story. You had mentioned Spenderella. Of course, she ran the best of the Americans, and she ran a really nice race. But, Jeff, she ran into the horse that gave you the most goosebumps.
Yeah, I was really proud, actually. I know Graham was as well, with Spenderella, who was undefeated coming into that race and ran her heart out. But the filly who beat her was an undefeated Franco filly named Spiral, trained by John and Thady Gosman. And this is she's now undefeated. She has a chance to be as good as any filly he's ever trained. Now, she certainly has a lot to do to move up to that level. She's largely unproven, but she's won 3 Group 1s in a row, 2 this year, just a 3-year-old filly. And if you talk about a massive turn of foot and the acceleration, the ability to quicken, the turn of speed that she put on in that race, that was, amazing in the coronation. And I know we have not heard the last of Spiral for sure.
Let's go back and look at that coronation. Now, Spenderella is going to be one off the rail competing for the lead. When we pick this race up, in the red and blue, buried behind about 8 horses, is the eventual winner in Spiral. Let's take a look back at Royal Ascot last week.
Spiral is going to have to try and thread her way through from the rear. Frankie driving away, red jacket, blue cap. Inside the 2, Cachet. Challenged now by Spenderella, the hoop sleeves. Here's Discoveries, and no, in Spiral finds daylight. She begins to run on very strongly down the centre onto the Tory drive, and in Spiral has come sweeping through to snatch the lead deep inside the furlong. Redemption day for Frankie. In Spiral, powering clear. In Spiral, inspired, wins the Coronation Stakes.
Jeff, that is what you call turn of foot.
Yeah, 123 Racing Post number, which if it's not really a buyer number, but it's maybe a few points higher if you want to try to compare numbers. So it just goes to show you how powerful that race was. And I mean, the super racehorses get like close to 129, 130, and she's just a 3-year-old filly, so she's almost there. So I would expect her to run in all the big races. And I don't know whether John would bring her over here for Breeders' Cup or running against anybody. I don't care what race she runs in, whether it's the mile and a half, the filly and mare tour. It doesn't matter. No one's going to beat her if she shows up with her best race. Hopefully, she will come over to Keeneland and do her thing. But to me, that was the most exciting and most overpowering race. We saw other winners that were expected to win and did, but I'm not sure we expected to see her run that well, but she certainly did.
I love 3-year-old fillies, and so does history in that Breeders' Cup Mile. They do well against the older males, and let's see her come to Keeneland in the fall. That'd be fantastic. Third topic this week is something brewing. Trainer Brad Cox has something brewing with his 3-year-olds here as the second half of the season gets underway. Jeff, you wanted to talk about last week's Pegasus win by Brad Cox, and he's got another one rolling now.
Here's a colt that had his first 3 starts of his career. They won 2 out of 3. He looked like a really nice horse. Kelly Breen had him originally, and then Brad Cox took him over. He had a poor run, though, in the Smarty Jones and the slop. He was favorite that day. I'm going to assume now that it was the off track that contributed to that loss, but we didn't see him again until April. And then he comes back. He wins the Oakland race at Oakland Park, going a mile and 1/8 in stylish fashion. Probably not beating a great group, but did it nicely. But then in the Pegasus at Monmouth Park, he just galloped. He just pulverized the field. Won by more than 6 lengths. 97 buyer number, and even that I thought might have been a little bit on the soft side because he came against slow fractions and finished out so fast. Right. This is a colt by Street Sense and out of a mare by Tappet, bred by Gary and Mary West. They own the horse, and I would think that there is a very good opportunity now for Homebrew to make some very serious noise in the second half of the season in the 3-year-old ranks because he looks like he will run all day. Where he shows up next hasn't been decided. I suppose the Haskell could be a possibility. Jim Dandy, maybe, depending upon what he wants to do. He's got Cyberknife as well. So I think Brad's got himself a chance to really elevate this colt. I think he's one of these second half 3-year-olds that has a chance to really, really step into that upper high echelon and really be competitive.
Of course, you mentioned Cyberknife. Just a week prior, he won the Matt win in the photo finish at Churchill Downs. So Brad's got a win in the Matt win. He's got a win in the Pegasus. And Jeff, I think he's got the horse to beat Saturday in the Ohio Derby at Thistledown. It's our express bet race of the week. I'll have my analysis later in the week, but I can tell you right now, I am on Tawny Port. I think Brad Cox has all of his 3-year-olds going well right now. Tawny Port was a much better than expected 7th in the Kentucky Derby. I think he's going to be very tough in the Ohio Derby, and we'll have that analysis at expressbet.com and in the ExpressBet newsletter a little bit later in the week. But it's a good early summer for Brad Cox, and he didn't have superstars at the beginning of this year. He had to develop horses to get to the Derby. He ended up with 3 in the Kentucky Derby field, and they seem to be gaining some traction. And Homebrew wasn't one of those horses in the Derby field. He becomes a 4th member of the Cox Brigade who could rise up, and we'll see what they have when they take on the bigger players a little bit later in the year. To our 4th topic this week on It's Official, the hot rod cooled off in the Salvatore Mile. Let's go back to Monmouth.
They reach the top of the stretch, and here comes Hot Rod Charlie to the outside of Mind Control, who is a tenacious foe to the inside. Shoulder to shoulder here with a final furlong left to go, and now Hot Rod Charlie lets it out. Mind Control will not give in. Mind Control comes back. Hot Rod Charlie, Mind Control, head and head, nose and nose. Mind Control, Hot Rod Charlie, photo finish. Photo finish in the Salvatore Mile.
Well, Jeff, we talked about it last week in our Thursday podcast as we look ahead to the weekend stakes each week on our audio podcast. And on ExpressBet First Call, I said, if Hot Rod Charlie's going to get beat, it's Mind Control to the inside, just taking him wire to wire. And Johnny V pulled it off. But what's the story, do you think, with a horse who just can't seem to get by Hot Rod Charlie?
Well, there are a couple of angles here I want to talk about. First of all, far be it from me to cold water a horse who has won $5.1 million.
Right.
He's also won 25% of his starts, which is usually a pretty good benchmark in terms of trying to evaluate a horse and his ability to win races. I don't think he's been the gambler's best friend, though. He's
No.
been beaten 5 times now as the favorite, a couple of times at short prices. I mean, odds on. And while Doug O'Neill was quoted as saying that he was very happy with the race, I'm not so sure I would have been, because I'm thinking if I own Hot Rod Charlie after finishing second in the Dubai World Cup and before that winning a race at Dubai, that maybe I want to be in that level where I can think about the Breeders' Cup Classic, a race in which he finished 4th in last year. But if I can't win a grade 3 at Monmouth, it kind of tempers my enthusiasm. So while Hot Rod Charlie, who probably will show up next in the Whitney and get a chance to make amends there, is certainly always going to be the kind of horse you have to reckon with. He's losing races that, I think he probably should be winning, and that kind of lowers my expectations a little bit of a horse that I do think is a good horse, but he has to prove that he can seal the deal and win the races he's supposed to win. And so far, he's been falling short. But I do want to give credit to Mind Control, though, Jeremy, because rather than try to, cold water Hot Rod Charlie, Mind Control, I'm looking at his form, and there's a couple of things that stick out to me, and maybe you can contribute in your opinion, because I want to hear what you have to think. Here's a horse who he's run 26 times. He's only run 2 turns 3 times. He's got 2 wins, both for Todd Pletcher, and the only other race around 2 turns that he had was way back as a 2-year-old in what was his 4th career start in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at Churchill Downs when he was 29-1. He probably wasn't good enough to win anyway, far back behind Game Winner. And you wonder, this horse looks like a prototype miler, a middle distance horse. He's a good 1-turn horse, but what's taken them so long to figure out as age 6 that he's really a middle distance horse?
Well, he spent a lot of his career with Greg Sacco, right? And that's a much smaller outfit than Todd Pletcher. And he was by far the best horse Greg Sacco had in his barn and probably has ever had in his barn. So if it's working okay in the sprint ranks and he's racking up the money that he is, if you're Greg Sacco, you can't necessarily take the chances that Todd Pletcher can take, right? I mean, you don't want to give away starts. Let's see if he's a miler. Let's see if he's a 2-turn horse. For Greg Sacco, you want that horse to be an ATM machine. And Todd Pletcher, when you get these power barns that get horses here, they could take some chances, right? I mean, it's no skin off Todd's back if you try him a mile at Parks last year and it didn't work out. But that it did work out, and now it worked out again, the 2-turn race at Monmouth. Now the skies open up, right? You don't have to be an elite sprinter. You don't have to be a 1.25 mile horse. You just be a good Breeders' Cup dirt mile type and fit a good spot in that barn for what they need. So I think some of it might have just been need-based, right? I mean, if you're Greg Sacco, you need that horse to be cashing big checks.
Yeah, I could see that. There's one other thing that I want to point out about Mind Control and trying to figure out why Hot Rod Charlie, who looked like he was going to win every step of the way until the last 10 yards where he got out-photoed, or what happened. But I'm looking at Mind Control's race record, and here are the margin of victories for Mind Control, including the Salvatore Maya last time. He wins by a head. Before that, he wins by a head. He wins the Nehru at Belmont by a head. He wins the Toboggan by a nose. He wins the Jerkins by a nose. I mean, you don't want to get into a fight with this horse in the last 20 yards. He absolutely knows where the wire is. Instead of losing by a head or a neck and coming close, he always seems to win these kinds of races. You get in a fight with Mind Control, you are going down. And that's, I think, what happened to Hot Rod Charlie. So maybe I give Mind Control more credit for winning the photo rather than Hot Rod Charlie for losing it.
Well, we talk about horses that win by narrow margins. There's a Star of Tomorrow as our 5th topic that didn't take margin into account in her career debut. She won off by 14.5 lengths. Let's introduce you to the first time to Money's Gold at Monmouth last Friday.
Money's Gold does it well so far, has a 1/4 mile left to go, is 3 lengths in front and widening this margin. Hugs the rail, and Money's Gold, a professional effort so far, is now 5 lengths clear. Madeline's Grogu is chasing, so is Almarosa. It's far, far back to the rest as Money's Gold is just striding away. The 2-year-old filly by Munnings. She is much the best. Money's Gold wins this one well.
Well, Jeff, tell us about this first Star of Tomorrow that we're going to feature here on It's Official. We'll do this throughout the summer with these good 2-year-olds coming up. But your take on Money's Gold?
I don't know if we're going to see anything better than that at Saratoga. Maybe we will. But Todd Pletcher, and by the way, credit to Pletcher for hiding this one. This one he was not even favored in this race. She wins by 14. She runs the last 8th and 11-1, 5/8 and 56-3. Margin of victory 14.5 lengths, and she earns a 101, a triple-digit buyer number.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're going to see a 2-year-old earn a triple-digit buyer number anywhere this year. She does it in 56-3. It wasn't like she opened up and staggered home. Her best 8th was her last. If this race had been 6 furlongs, she probably would have won by 25. That brought back memories of Landalusi about 40 years ago when she was at Hollywood Park doing the same thing for Wayne Lucas. The first horse that really, put Wayne on the map in thoroughbreds. And man, that reminded me of Landalusi. Now, I don't know whether she's going to go out and win grade ones, but I wouldn't put it past her based on what I saw. And what also is amazing to me is that she bought $300,000 as a yearling. Now, a lot of horses bring $300,000 as a yearling, but this is a filly with 3 stakes winners in 4 generations. That's it. Nothing in the first dam. Second dam was stakes placed. Third dam had a nobody ever heard of winner, a stakes winner in Argentina. That's it for the first 2 generations. The 4th generation mare produced a knees, the one that produced Cup Juvenile way back in the 90s somewhere.
Right.
So there was no pedigree here. She must be one of the great looking fillies of all time. You can't really tell it by looking at the video, but someone paid a lot of money for this horse, and there had to be more than didn't do it because of the pedigree. I can tell you that. She must be a fantastic individual who ran to it. Munning's obviously a very popular stallion, but Money's gold. Serious racehorse, and I can't wait to see her run back, and I assume Todd will have her at Saratoga.
Yeah, look, I believe maybe 5-6% of what I hear from trainers. I'm being generous in that. It might be less than 5% of what I hear from trainers. But I love the post-race quotes when he talked to Todd about this. He said, well, she's a really hard filly to ride, and the exercise rider who rode her in Florida was going to Monmouth. So I sent her there so she could be with that exercise rider. I don't know. If you had a filly that could run a 101 buyer and win by 14 in the debut, you bring the exercise rider with her somewhere else other than Monmouth. So I don't know. I don't know the whole story. We never know the whole story. But what we know this is she was a whole lot of good in that career debut. And again, we'll see where she shows up next. But sky could be the limit for that first of our stars at tomorrow. Again, throughout the summer here on the show, when we see a top performance on the undercards, a little bit below the marquee, we'll spotlight some of these really promising 2-year-olds. That's the fun time of year, these 2-year-olds developing for the future of the stars. We've got one bonus topic for you this week on It's Official. Before we close out, we want to talk to you about tomorrow's big night at Canterbury Park. It's the Northern Stars Turf Racing Festival. They've got 5 stakes races on the grass, a 10% takeout, all stakes pick 5. So be sure as a handicapper to give a long look to that. Big fields, 5 turf stakes races, 10% takeout. You can't beat that. Canterbury Park, of course, the official app of Canterbury Park is First Bet. They're doing a great job promoting the app up there. A lot of folks on track playing with the app now in Minnesota. So we're happy with our partnership with the great folks at Canterbury Park. And Eddie Olczyk was skating around Minnesota looking for some picks. So he's got a set up here on the show. We're going to get a hat trick from Eddie, give you his 3 best picks on tomorrow night's card at Canterbury.
Good day, everybody. Going to try to make like Kirill the Thrill here and finish off this hat trick on a beautiful Wednesday night of racing at Canterbury. Let's start off with race 3, number 9, Dream Work. Second race after an 8-week rest. Plenty of speed to stock. I'm hoping that the Biscuit, that being jockey Adam Biskitsa, sits in behind the speed, decides to sit and make one run. So my first pick of the day is in race 3, number 9, Dream Work. Let's go to race number 4, with number 4, 7 Cents. Perfect style to follow. Plenty of speed in this race with a 5, 11, and a 12. Is in good form. The likely favorite. Going to play a 4-3 exacta here in race 4, but my pick is number 4, 7 Cents. And let's jump to race number 7. Number 6, Mr. Dumas. Back on Lasix. 10 for 15 in a career on the turf. Has the perfect style for this race. With all the speed to follow, he has some back class, hoping to get at least 5 or 6 to 1. Go get him, PA.
That PA and ode to track announcer Paul Allen. And Jeff, I'm not a hockey guy. I mean, I know Eddie Olczyk and Wayne Gretzky. I like it's about the end of it for me in hockey. The Kirill the Thrill thing I had to Google. Kirill's a hockey player for the Minnesota Wild. So he got the local hockey reference in there. Eddie was dialed in, but I'm not a hockey guy. I mean, I used to say that hockey's for guys who can't swim. They wait for the pond to get frozen for the winter. But Kirill the Thrill, let's bring it in with that pick 3 from Eddie.
That would be great. And by the way, speaking of, I enjoy hockey. I know nothing about it. I asked a friend of mine, could you please do me one favor? Would you diagram a hockey play for me, like a football play, or
right.
The pick and roll for basketball? The guys just, to me, they just skate around randomly. But I know there's skill involved, and I appreciate that. And I will watch the Stanley Cup, again, not knowing what I'm looking at. But I enjoy competition, especially championship competition. And I love listening to Eddie on the hockey broadcast as well. So anytime Eddie shows up, I'm going to be there watching or listening for sure.
Well, we'll see who hoists Lord Stanley's Cup. I think it's Colorado and Tampa in the Stanley Cup Finals as we speak. And tomorrow night, again, it's the Northern Stars Turf Racing Festival at Canterbury Park. Be sure to check it out. That's going to wrap up this week's It's Official. Let's go back to the big board and look at our 5 topics. Santa Anita, safe and sound. Congrats on the safety measures that moved the racing forward at Santa Anita this winter. The royal ass kicking that we took in England over the past week, with 9 horses going to England, coming back with the goose egg. Something brewing with Home Brew winning the Pegasus, and Brad Cox's 3-year-olds turning up the early summer heat around the country. Hot Rod Charlie was cooled off in the Salvatore Mile, but a tough foe turned him back. And our star of tomorrow, the first one that we spotlighted, Money's Gold, winning off last week at Monmouth Park. Those 5 topics are now official because that guy over there said so, Jeff Siegel. Jeff, send us out this week.
Well, I wish everybody good racing in the little bit of a breather that we have here. We are going to enjoy racing. I will have best plays on expressbet.com for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so I'm not completely out of the loop.
Right.
I'll hang in there for a while, but looking forward again down the road to Saratoga and Del Mar. We'll have something really special, I think, for those meetings concurrently. So, but in the meantime, just cleaning the house and getting my strength back, and that's what we'll be doing.
All right. We look forward to your picks on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday each week at expressbet.com until Del Mar gets cranked up. That's a wrap for this week's It's Official. On behalf of everybody across First Technologies, for Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Good luck at the races. We'll see you next Tuesday on It's Official.